you are, it's already on,
Is this the part where I disclaim that my views are my own and not part of the Pittsburgh Robotics Network, its affiliates, or any other institution of Pittsburgh?
Right. If there's anything that is out of line or in the line of my asking, so just say.
I don't think I have the will to resist you, Will. I think I'll probably just respond.
All right.
Despite my best interests.
So first of all, thank you.
Yeah, happy to be here.
Being the Storyberg's first guest.
It's amazing.
I think last year you were first guest too.
I think I was.
Yeah. And so what has been happening? So, I mean, it's been a year or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I'm at the Pittsburgh Robotics Network trying to help the region's deep tech ecosystem commercialize. Ooh. So that means robotics, that means AI, that means sort of anything associated with these emerging technologies that will be reshaping the economies and cultures and societies of the future. A lot of the stuff's obviously stuck in the research labs, and so they need a little extra help getting into market and understanding how to do business. Oftentimes they're created and facilitated, and these companies are built by academics, right? So this is the mission of the Pittsburgh Robotics Network is to facilitate that commercialization, and of course the reason we do that is to create jobs and help secure the region's place in this confusing economic future.
All right, so who's funding you guys?
Well, funny you should ask, Will. Build Back Better, an initiative of the Biden administration.
Oh.
Is the primary funder of the Pittsburgh Robotics Network. So several years ago, 4-ish years ago, the region put in for a Build Back Better award. And
so you got the money already, right? Stash in, right?
Well, it's funny you should ask about that, Will. It's not wholly true, I don't think.
Okay.
So anyway, the region was awarded $62-ish million by the Biden administration to grow this economic cluster. That $62 million was broken into 5 different projects across different primes, right? So Innovation Works is a prime, SPC, Southwestern Pennsylvania Commission is a prime, Innovate PGH is a prime, and Catalyst Connections and one other, which I'm forgetting right now. And we are a sub-awardee under Innovation Works and SPC, just a little itty tiny bit under Innovate PGH as well. That's actually a contract. That's not a sub-awardee thing.
Okay.
So we do work that facilitates the economic growth and strengthens the robotics and deep tech cluster. And then the federal government, who I'm very fond of, reimburses our prime, and then our prime reimburses us for that work.
Okay.
So a little peril.
All right. So a little peril. So, I mean, it depends, I guess, when is your next
paycheck?
Exactly.
Hopefully Friday. Well,
I mean, not your personal paycheck, but the organization, when it's, is there like specific milestone that you have to meet? Is there any?
No, I mean, so this work has been going on for about a year and a half, 2 years. So without interruption, obviously the executive branch's priorities have changed.
Right.
And Doge, not the coin, but the agency or the man is
which one?
The big man, big boss man, is looking at all of the federal spending on a grant by grant basis and then deciding whether or not they're going to continue that funding or cut it. It seems unlikely to us and our primes and the region that this particular work will be cut because it isn't on the list of things that they are targeting.
Yeah.
It is about technology and about economic viability and about security, because a lot of Department of Defense contracts fund these robotics companies in town. Yeah. But that said, we haven't gotten our normal reimbursements, I don't think, since January.
Okay.
So we've been without pay. The organization's not getting funded for at least 90 days now. Right. We're rolling up to 90 days.
Well, I think, I hope that is you guys are fine considering the White House tech support is.
Yeah.
It's really pro AI.
You would think if you wear the shirt, you got to fund the projects, but I think that there may be some ketamine that influences that decision making.
Yeah, unless they have some, I don't know what kind of other companies that the tech support.
Does Elon Musk's horse also wear a tech support T-shirt?
Seriously?
Because he has to get the scripts from the vet.
Oh.
Never mind.
All right. Okay.
Again, these are my own opinions.
Of course.
Not the Pittsburgh Robotics.
That's right. And So you have how many members now?
There's 125 plus robotics and autonomy companies in town. And I don't have a good count for AI companies, but the Pittsburgh Robotics Network has 100-ish members.
Okay.
They're not all local. Some are national, some are international. The PRN really did kind of start out as a trade association. So much like, like A3 or some of the ones you might know, like industrial ones or manufacturing ones.
Right.
But the work of Build Back Better is about doing economic development work. It's about creating the systems and the programs and the networks and the processes, whether that be investors or coming in or facilities and lab space that let these companies grow more elegantly.
Right.
And so that's not a trade association's job.
That's more specifically trade association with steroids or something.
Yeah, let me make sure I didn't just shut your mic off because I was fidgeting with it like a maniac.
Still good. So that's great. So I'm just thinking, due to the funding situation, just in case. And then you mentioned about you have 125 members. I'm just thinking that, I wonder if there is a way that you can have a membership structure, fee, whatever that can sustain in the future, or I don't know.
Our sustainability model has very little to do sort of with membership. Membership is a part of it. It's not a huge part of our income or revenue.
Right.
Because you may not know this, but startups in town don't have a lot of money. So it's very hard to charge them a lot of money to participate.
Yeah.
And again, this is why we're not a trade association, why we're an economic development organization, because our community is growing. Like our technical community in town, the technical entrepreneurs in town don't need another burden or another liability on their P&L statement, right? So they need to be able to spend their money on the developing their company, not paying the PRN. So our membership fees are priced accordingly, right? And even with our international partners and stuff, because it's really about doing the larger grant-funded work than it is about extracting value from the people we're here to serve. So if Build Back Better goes away, long story short, the PRN will shrink dramatically. We're a staff of 12 right now.
Wow.
Funded by 2 separate federal grants. One is an ARC grant, and the other one's Build Back Better.
What is ARC?
ARC is Appalachian Regional Commission.
Okay.
Focused again on what are anywhere in Appalachia, right? Yeah. Appalachia, I guess is the right way to say it. The mission there is again trainings. How do you create a workforce that's ready to go into these deep tech companies as they mature, as AI annihilates regular jobs, what are the jobs of the future, as robotics starts doing the manual labor, automation starts solving problems at scale, what are these jobs that will be attached to it, stuff like that.
So out of this 125 members that you currently have, how many are they coming from different regions?
Oh, that's a good question. I can't do the math, but about 80 are local and the rest are sort of roughly.
Okay.
I don't have the exact number.
Right.
Ballpark 80, 90 are local and the rest are.
Okay. So that's pretty good. Right? Because that's one of the goal. One of the goal of the Pittsburgh, what I've been hearing forever, is that try to repopulate the city, right? Trying to retain also the talent, right? So those are the 80s, right? The 90s, 90s. Probably they are the graduates of CMU, graduates of Pitt. Yeah. Hopefully they stay here rather than.
Yeah, one of the most important ones is an IEP graduate, runs Gecko Robotics. That's one of the biggest ones in town.
Okay, what does it do?
Gecko does industrial inspection, and they're branching into other services now, but the core of their business has been, for the past 5 years, industrial inspection. So robots that climb all over ships and measure structural integrity of the steel hulls, or climb up a pipe or up a smokestack or inside a boiler. Big industrial infrastructure level inspection.
Okay. So I don't know the name, but many years ago, I remember, and I hope this is not classified. DARPA is in town, right?
Oh yeah, DARPA's here.
Is it part of the PRN member?
DARPA's not. DARPA is not a member of the PRN.
Okay.
And if it was, could I tell you? No, DARPA's not
at least a subsidiary or whatever, right?
Listen, there's a lot of work in town that's funded by DoD, DARPA. There's a lot of that stuff all over. Not just in the robotics cluster, but all over.
Yeah. I was told, by somebody, I was like, what, really? Wow. It was like, crazy.
Yeah, I mean, those DARPA challenges are super interesting. I mean, if you ever get bored, go on DARPA's website and like read the challenge, like RFPs. There's not always a direct correlation or corollary to like immediate violence. like sometimes it's bigger than that. Like, obviously, there's violence in it somewhere down in the future in the food chain, but but it's not always apparent.
That's why it's called DARPA.
That's right. That's right. DARPA does solve like big problems. It's pretty cool stuff sometimes.
All right, so save lives. I mean, if you win, but
yeah, it depends on whose side you're on.
That's right. Okay, that's great. So so you're here in the PRN, so what is your specific role in the organization?
So I am director of programs.
Woo-hoo!
So I run ops and I help with strategy, and basically I'm like the global project manager across those 12 employees, just making sure that T's are crossed and the I's are dotted, and we're moving along at a velocity that's respectable for a growing economic development 501c36. Yeah. 501c6, not C3.
Okay, all right.
Because we still are like we're not a 501c3.
Okay.
Nobody cares about that number. I don't know why. I fixated on it for a second.
All right. So, so how do you feel like working for PRN as opposed to working, say, for WorkHard?
Yeah, it's surprisingly the same.
He's the founder and he's the big kahuna for WorkHard. I mean, FYI, I just tuned in like last year.
Nobody remembers WorkHard Pittsburgh.
Wow, it's
lore at this point. It's urban legend. Did that even exist? Yeah, it's a lot of the same work, honestly. Like my skill set, I would say, translated pretty much one-to-one, right? Like the things I do on a day-to-day for the PRN are not particularly different than the things I used to do for WorkHard or Academy Pittsburgh or any of the equity-based initiatives that were pipelining people into like the tech workforce. Now that said, the new executive storm is changing the way people use language to do this kind of work. But I think that if you look at the staff of the PRN and you compare it to the staff of WorkHard Pittsburgh, you'll see a lot of similarities. So the ethical perspective or the sort of ethical bellwethers are still inside that organization. And regardless of what's happening nationally or federally, like we will persevere and try to do the right thing for as many different kinds of people as we can, including farmers and rural people. Got to throw that in there now.
Okay. But from the employee, not the employees, but the worker bees or the designers or the founders or whatever.
Yeah.
Right. For the robotics, right?
Sure.
They're
white, Will. They're white guys, Will. Is that what
all
you're
right. He can read minds. My goodness, man. It's a good skill.
Yeah. So that's why commercialization is so important, right? Because largely these founders are largely white dudes, right? Occasionally they're not, but they're definitely not coming.
I mean, if you're out of CMU, I mean, they're
right. They're not coming en masse from economic backgrounds of poverty or scarcity.
Yeah.
By and large, some are, I'm sure, but.
Or also, if you're targeting a specific neighborhood or just like general neighborhoods in Pittsburgh, right?
That's right.
They're not Larimer or Allentown or Bellevue or whatever, right?
But that's why they have to grow and become successful companies that have employees, because the opportunity to be equitable or the opportunity to be inclusive or the opportunity, in all seriousness, the jokes aside, the opportunity for someone who lives in Butler County, Fayette County, Westmoreland County to participate in this economy requires successful companies that have dozens, if not hundreds of employees.
Yes.
And this is I believe, we could argue about it, that like robotics, autonomy, the collision of that with AI is the economic opportunity for the next 20 years.
Right.
Because nothing else, it's going to replace so much.
Yeah.
So don't get a job in the industries that it's going to replace.
Such as?
Junior software engineer.
All right. But to become a senior, you have to start from being junior.
Graphic designer, video editor, junior lawyer, junior architect, draftsman.
What lawyer?
I would not be a lawyer. I would not advise my child to go get a law degree.
Robot journalist.
That's a tricky one. Definitely don't need journalists to write anymore, but we do need journalists to tell stories. That's still an opportunity there because humans like stories.
Okay. All right. So this is rare that I have to stop the recording, but we're going to
We're gonna smoke a joint.
because no, we're not being rated by ICE or whatever. You know, it's just something.
damn
else.
it.
Okay, wait. Okay, it's the glare.
Okay.
All right, we're back on. You know, there was a glare. You know, because right now it's almost 6 o'clock and the sun is just shining on the camera. So we are back. So we didn't say or talk about anything. You know, weird. So we just stopped. All right, so we're back to the helping the neighborhoods, helping Pittsburgh, city of Pittsburgh through this robotics. I think probably
we like the word deep tech.
deep tech
Yeah.
as opposed to
Just robotics in general, right? Like
Okay,
deep
why?
tech. Well, because it captures this idea that these societal changing technologies are being developed in laboratories all over the world.
right.
And to get out of the lab and into the marketplace, it takes a lot of work, takes a lot of energy, takes a lot of business acumen, and that requires an organization like the PRN to facilitate.
Okay. I think another, if I draw from my experience working and living in the Silicon Valley a long time ago, there are big companies, right? There are a lot of startups, and but then you know when they are growing or when they need some smaller parts, for example, that they need some brackets, for example,
Mhm.
they don't want to make it in house,
Right.
right? They hire some CNC company,
Mhm.
right? Who does this?
Mhm.
But then there are companies for right now. Say they have 125 members, and then your organization can say, hey, in the upcoming whatever year, you
Mhm.
may need to have people who produce whatever,
Mhm.
right? Brackets, cables, right?
Sure.
So and then it's like cascade down to a lot of
That's right.
mom and pop shops
That's right.
that actually build the economy.
District
right?
caterers in town, right?
Exactly, right? The roach coach, you know, they have to, you know,
Yeah.
well,
Yeah, no, that's all true, right?
Yeah.
So that's, again, we'll come back to this as a theme over and over again, why commercialization, and this is what the region probably has not thought about critically, right? Like the region has spent many, many decades trying to do economic development, but it really comes down to the simple act of just helping people commercialize at scale, right? So we forget that that's the mission sometimes, I think, right? Like just help these companies be bigger companies with employees. And there's a clear set of steps and interventions that you can take to do that.
right. And do you teach them? Because sometimes, you know, like people, you know, just out of college, right? They have ideas. They want to create this. They want to create that. So then there are certain things that probably have to be taught to them, right? Like commercialization, for example, and then how
That's
you do it the right way, or I mean,
Yeah, so that's
the nice way, or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Is this part of your charter? It's part of the PRN's charter.
So that's what the ARC grant is funding for the next 3 years. So the PRN is launching a deep tech commercialization institute. And so there will be 2 essentially curriculum tracks to help existing deep tech entrepreneurs commercialize more effectively, and then help the next generation that are coming out of like their graduate work or their postdocs, or even like junior seniors of undergrad and master students to get those skills and to understand that framework around building a company sooner rather than after they take VC money or start down a path, right? So yeah, we're funded to do that work. And so this year is that curriculum building and that network building so that internationally known, successful folks that work in commercialization of deep tech can come into Pittsburgh, do that instruction, share their knowledge in consumable ways. Like nobody's going to go back to college to do this, right? It has to be delivered in a modern, useful way that people can consume it. And we think that that program over the next 3 years will do a lot of good in the region, and it'll iterate, it'll get better. So,
do you see, or you know, like or guess, you know, what could be roadblocks that you can see in the near future that may actually derail this program?
a collapsing U.S. economy. Not for no particular reason that's top of mind for me.
Other than that, I mean,
Other than a collapsing U.S. economy.
Other than that.
Yeah, I mean, so listen, the region in its sort of habitualized form does not know how to rally around a cause. Everybody likes to take their little piece of the program or the pie and then do it in a very disparate way. And so there's a case that we're trying to make to consolidate these efforts, because that was the mandate of Build Back Better, was to create this deep tech cluster organizing entity. That was the mandate of the program.
Yeah.
And so the region's going to need to pick a winner. And the region's going to have to, en masse, support the effort, because we are in competition with probably a dozen other regions globally. And there's not going to be room for all of these regions to be successful. Like Missouri is not going to get a deep tech cluster. It's not going to have a deep tech ecosystem that spins out global, like world-shattering technologies, right? Well, they don't have the education. They don't have the educational institutions, right? Like CMU is the anchor to all of this, and CMU's robotics programs, which started, I think, in the late 70s, was the first PhD robotics program in the world. It has built all of this like beautiful capacity in the region that other regions would spend tens of millions of dollars to develop.
Yeah.
But they can't, and we just have it here natively. And all we have to do is spend a little bit of money to just put a layer of programming on top of it and a layer of resources on top of it, so that we take this already critical mass, all of this capacity, all of this smart people that are doing big, powerful things, and give them a pathway, an easier pathway to success. And that incentivizes them to stay, to your point. That also attracts all kinds of fancy, smart entrepreneurs from other regions to come in and think of Pittsburgh the way that people think of Boston and MIT when they think about robotics, or Odense in Denmark has 160 robotics companies in like a little tiny cluster. Like that kind of critical mass is super important.
Okay. So when you hit, or when you're about to hit critical mass, say that, you guys are successful, right? And then people, or the people who are working on this graduate, or they decide to stay here, but then they're thinking about schools, they're thinking about places to live, they're thinking about groceries, they're thinking about all those stuff. Do you plan, as an organization, do you plan to try to influence other organizations or other industry in the city, that they need to keep up, right? Or otherwise, people, just like in the past, people like, yeah, we like Pittsburgh, but
go live in Cranberry.
It's like it takes like, I don't know, like 20 minutes to go to the nearest supermarket.
Yeah, I mean, the urban cores are going to be a challenge, right? Like all these towers that have problems with vacancy now are going to have exacerbating problems with vacancy, because AI is going to take some of these back office jobs away at a very brisk pace, right? So governors put 700 million, right, or something like that, into this downtown corridor.
Oh, yeah, I heard about that last month, right?
Yeah, to try to like try to build attractors down here. So we're not positioned to do that advocacy, right? Okay. Like we just don't have the staff capacity. We don't have the influence.
Not yet. Let me say. Not yet. That's right. So you guys are, big kahunas, right? That the power to deal with, right? Everybody has.
Sure. But that still requires thoughtful policy making, and I don't think that the PRN ever really is going to be able to affect that in a meaningful way. So it's not our mission. Yeah.
How is PRN related to PTC, the Pittsburgh Technology Council?
Separate orgs, obviously. Like the PTC has historically been, serving startups and legacy enterprise all over the region in that trade association model. The PTC does a great job organizing some of the defense-related robotics programming here in town. And then, as I mentioned, like we are interested in consolidating all of these deep tech startups under one umbrella. Yeah.
Okay.
Audrey and Brian are great.
All right. So let me step back to one thing that you mentioned earlier about people, or not just like in PRN, but like anywhere in all the industries, that when they are expected to work together for a cause,
Mhm.
it's kind of hard because people, I don't know, right?
Scarcity on the brain
An ego,
and ego.
and they think
Related.
that, and they're like, I'm closer than the other guys. Let me have it.
Yeah,
Let
yeah,
me lead the
absolutely.
way, right? So,
Yeah,
and everybody thinks, of course, that all the startup funders, or whoever,
yeah,
right? We will say, I'm the best,
yeah,
right? They have to do that. They have to believe that they're
yeah. I
the
mean, if
best.
the funders could only fund on merit instead of politics. We've talked about that last time.
Yes.
You should be able to measure who's successful in a perfect world.
If they can agree on what the success criteria is.
Well, that's part of it too, right? They don't even agree on what success is, right?
Yeah.
Again, like nothing's changed in Pittsburgh. The Pittsburgh politics,
Not just in Pittsburgh, anywhere, right?
Sure, right. And Pittsburgh is constrained by its size. Pittsburgh is constrained by its losing population. Pittsburgh is constrained by legacy organizations that have a fixed narrative. Pittsburgh is constrained by institutional funders of one type. I think you know what I'm talking about. That refuse to iterate, refuse to test, refuse to fund on merit, right? So, yeah, it's the challenge.
Yeah.
So our strategy is largely dependent on private capital. So the big things that we're going to try to do this year are going to be funded at least in part by private capital. So like a true public-private partnership, but focused on the private part.
So how does it work? If those private companies sponsor you, or they run your program, or how does it work?
Yeah, the great thing, Will, about having a deep tech ecosystem or deep tech cluster is that people want to participate and be involved. Big corporates, right? Like big corporates, venture capital, investors of all shapes, sizes, and moral compasses. So we're able to tell an authentic story about relationship building in this deep tech cluster so that if you are a large institutional corporate, you have access to the best, the brightest minds in technology to solve your problems and keep you competitive in this dynamic changing times. And so there's real opportunities to storytell about creating those communities here and then offering that onboarding, that concierge access to these communities.
Okay.
And then if you do that at scale, it's easy to fund a 12-person organization that can then do the work.
Okay. All right. So historically, like you said, CMU was the pioneer probably.
Yeah,
right, in
still are.
robotics, right?
Yeah.
And that's why this Uber autonomous project was
ATG was here. Yep.
and they hijacked the entire department, right, from CMU. So what do you think happened? Why did they fail?
Uber ATG?
Yeah.
Oh, geez. I don't know that I know the answer to that. I can make some bullshit up though. Let me think about that for a second. Nothing else. I'll tell a good story.
ChatGPT?
Yeah, exactly. Just real quick. Give me a second. Pause this. I mean, I'm sure there's macroeconomic forces, right? Like, I think, honestly, the technology, like you see it even in Tesla today, right? Like, autonomous vehicles are not autonomous vehicles in the way that perhaps people thought that technology was going to progress. Now, that said, like, we have great autonomous companies in town now that are focused on like long haul trucking. And I don't know if you've ever been in a Tesla on the highway. It's pretty good, right? Like it's 99.99% there. Like it can drive you from exit to exit, no problems, and you feel safe, it doesn't screw up. So there's a real opportunity economically to automate a lot of the trucking industry, like right now.
Yeah.
And so like Stack AV and Aurora and one or two others, I think, are dabbling in it, like building those computer vision systems, those LiDAR systems that are going to allow for that to happen. And the deregulation states, like the states that don't have a lot of, that have like libertarianism as a motto or on their state flag, are already allowing these companies, these Pittsburgh-based companies, to do their commercial testing. So there are autonomous trucks in Texas right now running routes.
Yeah, I think in San Francisco and LA they do Waymo, right? They have that autonomous taxi.
That's right. Yeah, for sure. But again, I'm just looking at a Tesla because I know how a Tesla goes or moves about. In the city, a little shady, right? Pedestrians, birds, trucks, bicycles, randomness of humans.
Yeah. And I was surprised too when Uber Autonomous, decided to do it in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
It's the terrain is Crazy.
If you can do it here, you can do it in a grid in the Midwest, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think it's just timing and probably talent and probably executive decision making. Whatever strategic, money making ideas they had about that, I think those are probably not sound.
So, from this 125 members of PRN, how many are they working on the autonomous thing?
Oh, I don't know that off the top of my head. I mean, there's a lot of companies in town that work on the components of those systems. We have so CMU is strong in computer vision, so it produces a lot of computer vision engineers, and obviously computer vision and how that goes back into the machine learning is a big part of driving a vehicle autonomously. So there are a lot of companies, whether they're doing it for defense applications or doing it for like taxis. There's a lot of companies working in that space. Even like autonomous floor cleaners and forklifts and things like that. Like we have companies in town doing that.
Okay.
And a lot of it, again, spun out of Uber, ATG, right? A lot of those engineers went and started their own thing and taking a shot at commercializing that technology in specific sort of applications.
So let me ask you this, as you know what they're working on, right? Is there any moment where you just in your brain, in your mind's like, holy shit, this is not good for humanity? Have you ever thought about that?
Yeah, I mean, most of what we are doing right now is not good for humanity. So I don't know that I have a particular bias against.
This is just personal view, okay?
What like Pittsburgh companies are doing, right? So the reality is, and this is the hard, cold Republican facts of the situation. Like if Pittsburgh does not lead the way in these technologies, Pittsburgh will not have the companies that make these technologies, and Pittsburgh will not have the jobs that go with those technologies. Other places will do it, whether it's in China or whether it's in Palo Alto or whether it's in Boston. Other people are going to make these technologies. And so you're in that weird ethical dilemma where you have to participate or you will be irrelevant and poor. As a region, not just like you personally. Like as a region, like there is no other emerging industry that I can think of, maybe you have one in mind, that Pittsburgh can glob onto to make sure that there are jobs here in 30 years. There are no new corporate headquarters coming to Pittsburgh if we don't make new ones here and make big, successful companies that are, on the edge of what is going to drive future economies.
Yeah, and I agree with you.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough.
Yeah, so I think remember I think when Storyberg had an article, I don't know how many years ago, we had actually written an article. But this is a robotics corridor. Right, you guys. It was like so many years ago, and there were already a lot.
Robotics Row, yeah.
Right, and and then thinking about the CMU and the Uber, and it could be one of the anchor to lead other industries or organizations, right? Assuming that we all can work together.
Yes,
right?
like some of these companies in town have 1,000+ employees already. Right? So what if they had 10,000 employees? What if they had 20,000 employees, right? And then of those 20,000 employees, not all of them are going to be engineers. Some are going to be the kitchen staff. Some are going to be maintenance, right? Like some are just going to be techs, right? Just
like all these CNC machines. I do, one of my relatives in Silicon Valley, he has a company doing CNC, and he only graduated, he only has a high school diploma.
That's right.
Right? And he's successful.
Yeah.
It's very successful, make tons of money.
Right.
And
great.
And this is really doable. And then that's why I think when, again, so many years ago, when tech shop was closed, I was like, why?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, to think about the funding model, you might dig into, you might be able to do some investigative journalism as to why that was.
Tech shop used to be in Bakery Square right now. I don't know where it is.
This is a non sequitur, but we have this impulse. Powerful people have this impulse to go bring in outside talent to solve Pittsburgh problems. And if you look at the track record of that, I think you'll find that outside people can't come here and solve Pittsburgh problems.
Right.
Outside brands.
Right.
Outside institutions that are purported to have done it successfully in a different market.
Yeah.
First of all, there should be healthy skepticism as to whether they're successful in that market or not.
Right.
Because as you probably know, nonprofit annual reports can say all kinds of things, and nobody really bothers to check if they're true. Not a lot of vetting of that content.
Yeah.
Like there's no Doge agency to check nonprofit annual reports about like their outputs and their outcomes. So there's that, and then there's just the idea that like what works in Boston is wholly irrelevant, or what works in New York City in a use case that's happening right now is not relevant to Pittsburgh's 600,000 people.
Yeah.
And its habits of mind and its culture.
That's right. Even within companies, right? I mean, I don't know. I don't know why. Probably you can answer that. That, when organizations, foundation, whatever, right? They like to hire outside consultants.
Yeah.
Well, probably just have a chat with your employees. They'll tell you what the problems are.
Yeah.
Right? But they want to have somebody, I don't know, probably it's just their mea culpa or whatever. Like, I didn't say it, somebody else.
Yeah, I mean, it's a mythology of expertise.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just like, it's, and this is going to sound silly maybe, but like with ChatGPT, like who doesn't have expertise right now, right? Like the things that you can pull out of that and extract out of that can make you very sophisticated, especially if you compare, a modern worker that's using that effectively to someone 10 years ago, 20 years ago. They're just not at all the same thing.
Yeah. And you guys, audience, if you use ChatGPT, also use other stuff, Copilot, Gemini, whatever, and compare them before you decide on the answer. Okay, right? They still have a lot of.
Yeah, I mean, I had ChatGPT making complicated spreadsheet formulas for me this morning, and old me would have toiled for hours doing that.
Absolutely.
I just said, ChatGPT, here's what I want to do, make the formula, and it did it.
Yeah. What I like is I think it's Adobe Acrobat. They have this AI thing, right? There are all these so many pages and pages of PDFs I have to read. Just like summarize it.
Yeah, and just chug through it.
Yep, yeah. And it's so specific. It's really they're not. I don't know. They're not hallucinating.
Well, I mean, a dirty secret. Like our ARC grant was 80% written by ChatGPT 3.5.
How do you know that?
Because I wrote it with ChatGPT. So that was that's with regional contributions.
Your boss knew, right?
Yeah, she knows. Yeah.
All right.
With regional contributions, that's a $1.5 million grant for the region over 3 years. That was mostly written by ChatGPT. Now I had to teach it, right? Like I had to train it and make it do the thing it needed to do and respond to the prompts in a way that were authentically true. But again, like that would have taken me a week to write,
right?
And it would not have been as good. And I did it in probably an actual day and a half of work, And that was me. That was me. My first stabs at using like these tools, right? And now they're much better than they were when I did this a year ago.
Right.
And I mean, there are startups obviously that just do this for a living now. Like there is a startup that is a member of the PRN, a little plug called Government Signals. They take all of your collateral, all your old grants, all your PDFs, all your like institutional knowledge, and then they go and match it with grants that they source from different, streams, for lack of a better word. And then the dashboard allows you to just write the answer to the grant prompts, like right there, and you just vet it, submit it.
Wow.
Saving hundreds of hours.
So another job to avoid is like grant writing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Like, yeah.
Oh, wow. All right. But people still... All right, I guess. I mean, I'm just thinking like, why do we need, what is the better way then, right? To get what of the applicants, the true capability of applicants. Because sometimes, when you look at the grant writing, grant application, there are a lot of BS.
Sure.
Right? There are a lot of things that,
It's going to raise the standard, honestly.
Yeah.
Right? Like, so one specific section that sticks out of my mind was like, some kind of like market analysis section in this ARC grant. And I had no answer for it. Like imagine me having to do a market analysis of like robotics or whatever the prompt was, like nationally. Like where do you even start? Start Googling like reports about robotics nationally, and then you have to read all these 42-page PDFs, and it's crazy. Like it would take me a week just to kind of parse that information into something that I like understood.
Yeah.
Not with ChatGPT. Said, give me the references so I can check them, right?
Yeah.
I can't just like say crazy stuff and write this section.
So probably, they just want to know that you're resourceful enough to answer the questions. And probably our K-12 education should be like that too.
Oh, yeah.
Right. I think we talked last time about, how doomed our kids are,
Very doomed.
That
Very doomed. So doomed.
So, how can we teach them? I mean, not.
But what are we supposed to teach them at this point? Like, it's not clear to anyone what we should be teaching people at this point.
Not that you support the elimination of Department of Education, but it's.
So how can I tell this story anonymously? A good story. I had some anonymous person who I won't name was, because I know a lot of teachers, obviously, right? Because I was a teacher for 13 years.
Yeah.
Was tasked to go and sit in classrooms and observe, basically. And teacher was delivering some lesson that they've been delivering for, years and years and years, and was just wholly irrelevant to what was happening in the world today. They were literally just communicating like the textbook facts of, say, the War of 1812, or it was, I think it was that exactly, actually, and not discussing like yellow journalism or media bias or any of the things that are happening now in our world, right? And like not connecting the dots.
Yeah.
But had they sat down for like 30 seconds at a chat GPT prompt and said, write me a great lesson plan about the War of 1812, they would have gotten a much better product.
Wow.
And so why do we need teachers? Right? Like if the iteration, I did this as an exercise with my teacher friend, just to be like, look how things are changing. How long till we have, human interface AI that is just better at like doing rigorous research-based instruction to a variety of learners. Like this is a learner of this type. It will figure that out over time, a visual learner, a speech-based learner or a hands-on learner, whatever it is. And like, concierge curriculum developed just for that child.
Right.
Like, it'll be better than a person.
Yeah. I think the challenge is, as parents, right, we do not have time.
Yeah,
right?
Sure.
That's why we put our kids into the factory, right? It's like, okay, here, first grade, second grade, third grade.
Sure.
And then we're hoping by the end of 12th grade, they're ready for college to a major of what they like or what the parents like, right? So, but, because like.
It's a velocity problem, right? Like the technology and the jobs are going to change way faster than the Department of Education could ever adapt to.
Yeah.
And then boots on the ground. I was a teacher for 13 years. Teachers are great. Teachers are old. And they do not accept change as a paradigm that is positive and helpful to their mission and their job. A good teacher today is going to have to be wildly dynamic and adaptive to a changing economy that boggles the mind.
Right. And changing behavior too. All kids now have cell phones.
Yeah, absolutely.
They are distracted all the time.
All kids are using generative AI. Yeah, I mean, these kids are using it now, right, too, right? Like way more than adults are.
Right.
And so they're not going to want to write their book report because it's going to seem like a waste of time to them. And it honestly is a waste of time for them, right? There's going to be a toolkit that lets you do it 1,000 times faster. Like nobody is drilling holes in their wall with a manual drill anymore. Like everybody picks up the electric drill and uses the electric drill, right? Like nobody's driving, like not many people are riding around in a horse and buggy anymore.
But they have to know that they need the drill.
Oh, right? Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
Like even like when you say that for the book report, I mean, the skills to, the intellectual skills to actually think about the book report, right?
I don't know. I mean,
is that a necessary skill? Like to think, to actually individual.
I don't know.
You don't know. I mean,
I don't know if it is anymore. Like it's we're years away, 2 years away from machines that are smarter than they have the collective intelligence of the whole planet stuffed in their GPUs.
Yeah,
it's going to be smarter than you. It's going to be better at everything than you.
But what if I forgot the name of the Netflix limited series by Robert De Niro, 0 Day.
Oh, I don't know. I got rid of all that stuff
because they shut down the internet.
Yeah.
They shut down the electricity
Sure.
or whatever. And then,
Yeah.
right? So people don't know what to do. Right?
Sure.
People, I mean, it's like chaos, right? I mean,
Sure.
it's not that we are supposed to, expecting or
Yeah.
anticipating apocalypse, but don't you think that everybody needs to have some rudimentary skills that they have to master?
I don't know what those are anymore. I genuinely don't.
True.
I mean, I think it's probably like how to start a fire. Or like how to grow beans at scale, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't know what
How to sweep a floor, right?
Right, the proper methodology. Yeah, I don't know. Like I don't. So there's a dichotomy here, right? Like
Right.
the world is not going to stop building this technology, even if the threat of this technology failing ruins the world. Right? Like nobody's going to stop building nuclear-powered GPU data centers. It's happening. Microsoft got to deal with 3 Mile Island, turned that shit back on because they know that the power, the electric demands on these next rollouts of artificial intelligence are going to be more than the grid can handle. Westinghouse is building all sorts of new novel microreactors, including ones the size of a car that can power like 10, 15 houses at a time, like nuclear batteries.
Right.
Like the capital's moving, right? Like capital is telling you where the world's going. It's investing in new infrastructure that is going to meet these power requirements because everybody knows that nobody's picking up the hand drill. Everybody's going to pick up ChatGPT. Everybody's going to pick up Grok or Gemini or whatever the tool is, and they're going to use it exclusively. And the kids are going to use it exclusively, and the teachers that are out there in the public schools or the private schools, by and large, do not understand this and will have no way to adapt instruction to meet the demands of a changing economy. And so what you'll see is attrition, I think. This is just my wild personal view, my own view, not the world's view. I think it's going to be hard to maintain public schools in the next 20 years. I don't think people are going to prefer public schools as the modality of education. I think it's going to get privatized by AI. Like there'll be just versions of teachers that are machines that are just better, objectively better at it than humans.
Yeah. Or probably in the meantime, there are still going to be public schools, but those who have money, those who are privileged, they will go to the specialized schools.
That's right.
Right.
Or specialized school kids.
Right. Even though it is an opportunity to leapfrog, actually, right? If we put the resources, the knowledge with this AI, they can actually leapfrog.
And there's a narrow window to take economic advantage of it, right?
Yes. And again, it's going back to, working for a cause for a lot of organizations.
Yeah, let me give you a great example of like the narrow window that's closing. Like right now, we were shopping for a badging solution. Like you go to a conference, get a badge.
Yeah.
Like you walk up to the little desk and get your badge, right? Like that costs for a big conference, thousands of people, between $30,000 and $60,000 to have a vendor come and badge at your conference. We literally wrote that software right now in a week for $3,000 using AI. So we just built our own version of this product, this service product that's out there right now. And that's just one example of hundreds and hundreds of B2C applications that are going to just not be relevant anymore, because you'll just be able to walk up to your ChatGPT prompt and in natural language describe the software that you want to build, and it'll just kick out the code in the application. So why would you pay a vendor who does badging for a living $40,000 to badge your conference when you could just write that software yourself? So like that stuff's all going away.
Probably they can just sell the physical form of the badge.
Yeah, and you're selling paper and renting a printer.
Or probably create an RFID or something.
Yeah, sure. I mean, there's complexities that you could integrate, but like there's hundreds of these use cases where we have like these .com B2C applications that are expensive because they're B2C. They're charging tens and tens of thousands of dollars to do things. And then internally, right? Like internally, like big institutional corporations have all these applications that they've built on legacy platforms that require, a dozen software engineers to maintain and scale and do all this stuff. That shit's gonna get all rebuilt like that in the very near future. And so, like, why do you have all those software developers on staff now? Why do you have that? Those maintenance people on staff, like all these white collar jobs, not gonna be around.
Yeah, yeah. Which is I read I don't know, probably a year, 2 years ago, which was a surprise, right? People thought that it was gonna be the blue collar jobs are going away, right? But it's not.
It's not because the robots aren't there yet. It's not because the battery technology, the energy density isn't there, and the interface between AI and physical movement, right? Like the physical AI that you need to put inside a robot to do the things physically that we do with language now.
Also the refined motor skills. Right?
Yeah, and the ability to learn, right? Like for the ability of the robot to learn on its own how to pick this thing up. You don't want to have to like teach it every single motion, right?
Right.
Like that's the next wave of job destroying technology. Like once that physical AI is embodied in robots with enough battery power, then that manual labor stuff also starts looking real iffy. Because to build that robot, say it's 30 grand, 40 grand, it's pretty easy to demonstrate an ROI on a $40,000 robot that's going to last you 5 years. Because you can pay your employees way more than that in healthcare and just lawsuits and everything else, right?
Right. Well, robots, they can work 24 hours a day.
24 hours a day, right? All you need is a couple techs. Keep them oiled, greased, grease their joints. I'm going to be a robot greaser when I grow up. I want that for my daughter. Professional robot greaser.
So 2 questions for you.
Okay.
Right? So you're talking about energy, right?
Yeah.
So let me just write it down before I forget, right? So DeepSeek, right? What do you think about DeepSeek? I mean, they use less energy, right? So is it real or is it, do you guys talk about this?
It doesn't matter if it's real or not because whatever it's purporting to be, even if it's not that thing because it's Chinese spyware, like there are things coming that are obviously going to improve efficiencies, right? Mm-hmm. So the curve of technology, where we went from film to magnetic tape VCRs to laser discs to low-grade streaming services and MP3s and MP4s and all that stuff. It took 25 years. It took longer than that, right? Like it took decades to do that technology curve. It's not going to be the case with the software and this technology. Like this technology is going to scale at breakneck speeds over the next 5 years. So whatever they're purporting, I don't know if it's true or not. I honestly didn't look that deeply at it. I've seen both arguments. That's a lot of smoke and mirrors, and that is real. It doesn't matter because it's coming. Like better efficiency is coming. Nuclear power is coming to power these things. Like there are energy epochs coming that are going to make this technology highly viable.
Are you sure about the nuclear energy? I mean, don't we have? Yes. Well, the EPA is being.
There's no EPA anymore.
No.
I mean, maybe they didn't get to it yet, but it's like aesthetically.
So I guess everything is like stacking up, I mean, so I don't know. I guess in some level they're working for a cause.
Yeah. I mean, you have to admire their clarity of vision, and that would be my criticism of the left is lack of cohesive vision. They have a plan, and they are implementing their plan, and nothing seems to be stopping them. No resistance seems to be emerging to slow it down.
Yes. So I think I talked to several people about it, right? After the election, it was so different from 2016, right? 2016, immediately there are a lot of movement. There are a lot of things going on, right? They're trying to counter this. That this year is like nothing. It's like a cricket.
Yeah, I mean, the test will be the midterms. And
it's too long.
Yeah, I mean, it is too long. He'll got all the federal agencies between now and then.
How many days? I mean,
And listen, like
54 days or something, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I am more moderate than ever. I don't think that the liberal far left policies of the last, 8 years, 10 years have created anything. They play a part in Trump's rise to power.
Of course.
And there was strategically many wrong moves along the way. And I don't think we've even had an honest conversation about what strategically was the wrong thing to do.
Yeah, or what went wrong.
Yeah.
Nobody talked about it. Nobody wanted to talk about it.
Nobody's talking about it now. We're just like acquiescing now to this new paradigm of what this country is going to be.
Yeah.
And so if we have free and fair midterm elections, I think that will be a good indication that everything's okay. That it's just a perturbation in the swinging pendulum. So that's sort of my what I'm looking at, like what happens in the midterms.
Okay. All right. So now my second question, and the first one was DeepSeek, about the out of this 125 members you have, was there any project on humanoid?
Yeah, Agility has offices in town. That's our most prominent humanoid robotics company in Pittsburgh, Agility Robotics. Founded here, started here. They have offices here and in, I think, Palo Alto somewhere.
What did the robots do?
Whatever you want. They're humanoids.
Okay. So with the 2 legs, 2 arms.
2 legs, 2 arms.
Oh, wonderful.
Yep.
Scary, but yeah.
Wonderful. Yeah. And then there are other companies in town that are doing specific componentry, right? Like fine motor skill and actuators and stuff like that.
Wow.
Yeah. So that stuff's here.
So are you guys going to have a showcase?
Every November, Robotics Discovery Day. It's at the convention center. This year, 6,000-ish people attended. About 134 exhibiting companies. The bulk of them were Pittsburgh-based robotics companies. Open to the public. STEM programming for the kids. Investor programming for the rich white dudes. And it's a just general, exciting, great day to see what's happening in Pittsburgh deep tech ecosystem. This year's even bigger. We'll be in halls A, B, and C, so about 40% bigger. And we're in partnership with the Global Impact Forum and Penn State University. There'll be a co-located conference on AI and workforce happening upstairs. So Penn State's doing their big conference upstairs. We're doing our big conference downstairs. We're merging the two. And so it should be content-rich, full of opportunities to figure out where you fit in this ecosystem, no matter what you are.
Is it free?
It is free.
Wonderful. See, something to look forward to.
November 5th, I believe.
If we get there. I mean,
we're going to get there. Yeah, we're going to get there. You may not be happy when you arrive, but we're going to get there.
All right. So, and then there's another one coming up, and I'm kind of, let me give you, this one. I think you guys are sponsoring it.
Yeah, we are.
Right? I hope that this podcast dropped before 19. So, can you tell us about this rule breakers?
Yeah. So CMU and Pitt and CCAC are all come together to put this on. It's a documentary about a group of students that were a robotics team in a country that had all sorts of crazy rules and ideas about the role of women in these professions. And, they had to persevere and overcome crazy social injustice to do this very simple thing that we take for granted, which is participate in some STEM programming. Right?
It's like any education for women, right? Women for girls.
That's it. That's
right?
right.
There's no education for girls in Afghanistan.
So there's a screening of this documentary. Obviously, some of these ladies now are here in town and are being educated locally. And I believe one of them is attending to do some remarks or Q&A. And so that, I think there are still tickets available. Last I heard, there were. So check it out.
All right. And it's free, everybody. Wednesday, March 19, 6 to 9. Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. That's it.
Chatting with you. Yeah.
I feel like it. I feel like it didn't say anything controversial this time.
No. I mean, depends, right? It depends on
it's my old age.
Everything is arguable, right? So unless you have anything.
So we start naming names.
Sure, off the record. Should we go into local politics?
Do you want me to air any beefs I have, like historic legacy, like decade-long beefs that I have with people in town? I won't do it, Will. I'll control. I'm an adult now. I have a job. I go to work every day, get a salary. It's weird.
And East End Co-op is the place, right? I mean, near that area.
We're 47th, and it's in Lawrenceville. It's 47th Street,
okay.
like down towards the river.
I look at the website. So let me.
We co-locate actually in the same building. It's called Tech Forge as all the Innovation Works Alpha Lab Gear Programming.
Right. This is the where the Ascend is, right? I mean,
No, this is down at just the heart of Lawrenceville.
Oh, okay.
47th off of Butler, 47th Street off of Butler.
Okay.
Come visit us. I'll buy you lunch.
All right. Lawrenceville, the happening place.
Yeah.
So okay, I just come on my mind. Tandem Solutions. What happened?
Oh, it still operates. Yeah.
Oh,
so
wonderful.
yeah, I mean, we
You
have
time for it?
I have people that do it for me, right?
Yay!
Yes.
ChatGPT.
Some ChatGPT in there. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, it's just
This is his company that
concierge technology service, right? So folks pay a flat monthly fee. They get a certain number of hours, and I have a team of people that solve whatever that problem is. Usually, it's around web builds and around sort of the digital marketing side of things. But from my work hard days, I have a deep bench of talented people that are always looking to help people implement what it is that's going to either take the project or business forward. So yeah, Tandem still runs.
Wonderful.
Still out there collecting money for me.
Yay, busy guy.
Capitalism.
Yay. I don't know what I should say. Yay or whatever. All right. So how do you see, or what do you see, or whatever, what Pittsburgh in 5 years?
Oh, Pittsburgh's got to get its act together, Will. And the window's closing. And nobody's going to stay here if there's not jobs. And if Pittsburgh's leadership doesn't think deeply about where the opportunity is to create jobs, there's not going to be a Pittsburgh. There's going to be a suburb of Zelienople.
All right, so this is the bombshell, guys. So just listen to this, all right? So we're going to start naming names now.
Yeah, I mean...
Primary is coming. I mean...
Yeah, Pittsburgh's shrinking, man. Like, it's not getting bigger. And that's the scary thing. And just personally, right? Like, I have a daughter, a wife. Like, if the opportunity's not here, like, I got to go.
Yeah.
You know? So if, like, this doesn't work out and, like, it doesn't seem like Pittsburgh is going to do an authentic effort to, like, create, retain, build the companies here that are going to change the world, then Pittsburgh is not going to be important and it's going to shrink. And I don't know what that even looks like. Like this vacancy that's down here now.
And that's why we are here in this beautiful Benedict Trees office.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like you've been in Pittsburgh for what, a decade?
14 years.
For 15 years now. Like it feels smaller now. Does it feel smaller to you? I'm curious, like what your take is on that.
My life is always small, so I just like Squirrel Hill and downtown. So I mean, and Ellen used to be Allentown too. But
yeah, I mean, it culturally feels. I'm old, so it could just be me being an old man too. Yeah. It culturally feels less vibrant. The quirky, weird things that are like the core quirky businesses that are like the foundations of communities. Seems like there's less of them to me. Doesn't seem like a new generation of entrepreneurs is given an opportunity to like do the new next cool thing. Like the math of it is just skewed and lopsided. So like a young person can come up with $500,000 to, you know what I mean? Like just the cost of starting something new is just so high now that the young entrepreneurs can't fill the gaps as these old crusty dudes like me like become irrelevant and like don't have important things to offer or cool things to offer. It's a troublesome thing. It's a worrisome thing. I was down in Mexico City. I think I mentioned that on my way walk-in. That's like 21 million people live in Mexico City, right? Or like in the Mexico City proper. Yeah. And like we'll be at like 600,000 or like 1.2 in the region or something like that. That feels different.
Yeah.
That just feels different. You could go to a rock show and it just feels like a rock show. Right? Like, you can have a rock show in Mexico City with people in the audience, Will, like that are having fun and enjoying themselves. And I don't like that's just one of a multitude of examples of you can't have nice things if nobody lives here.
Yeah. All right.
Doom.
Great. That ends our podcast. So hopefully we're gonna have the next one next year. And knock on wood. Thank you very much, sir.
Thanks, Will.
All right.
Always a pleasure. Bye.